There exists in the hidden recesses of the feminine psyche a force so powerful, so ancient, that it has shaped civilizations, toppled kings, and driven men to both their greatest triumphs and most spectacular downfalls. Listen, Carl Jung, the revolutionary psychologist who mapped the uncharted territories of the human soul, uncovered truths about this feminine force that modern psychology dares not speak aloud. These are not mere observations. They are fundamental patterns woven into the very fabric of human existence, recurring across millennia in our myths, our dreams, and the unconscious behaviors that govern our most intimate relationships. The anima, that mysterious feminine presence dwelling within every man's psyche, represents only the half the story. Just as profound, yet far more dangerous to ignore, is the shadow aspect of the feminine psyche itself. Listen, we're not speaking here of cartoonish villainy, but of something far more subtle and profound, the natural, primal undercurrents that flow beneath the carefully cultivated surface of feminine social behavior. Where masculine energy asserts itself directly, feminine power operates through channels most men never learn to perceive, through emotional resonance, through unspoken suggestion, through the quiet but relentless shaping of reality itself. Consider the archetypes that haunt our collective unconscious. The witch who commands forces unseen, the seductress who wields attraction as a weapon, the femme fatale who leads men willingly to their destruction. Listen, these are not mere fairy tales, but psychological templates that emerge with startling regularity when we examine female behavior across cultures and throughout history. When direct confrontation proves ineffective, these ancient patterns awaken within the feminine psyche, sometimes consciously, often operating entirely beneath the surface of awareness. One of the most potent weapons in this hidden arsenal is the strategic use of perceived vulnerability. Listen, the woman who appears fragile, who seems to need protection, may in fact be exercising one of the most sophisticated forms of control known to human psychology. Men, biologically wired to respond to displays of distress, often fail to recognize when these signals are being deployed with precision and calculation. This is not to suggest all women engage in such behavior consciously, but the pattern exists, documented in clinical studies, evident in relationship dynamics, and observable to anyone willing to look beyond surface appearances. The battlefield of feminine influence exists not in the physical realm, but in the emotional and psychological dimensions most men scarcely understand. Listen, where a man might forget an insult by morning, a woman's memory for emotional slights can span decades. Where masculine conflict tends to be direct and finite, feminine psychological warfare operates through subtle cues, emotional withdrawals, and the strategic withholding of affection, tactics far more devastating than any physical blow. To navigate this terrain successfully requires more than simple awareness. It demands a fundamental rewiring of masculine perception. Listen, the first step is pattern recognition, understanding that feminine communication often occurs on multiple levels simultaneously, that words may conceal as much as they reveal, and that emotional displays may serve purposes beyond their surface appearance. The second is integration, balancing the masculine psyche so it can perceive these undercurrents without being overwhelmed by them. The final step is mastery, not domination, but the ability to engage with feminine energy consciously rather than reactively. This understanding carries with it a profound responsibility. Listen, just as men must confront their capacity for brute force and domination, we must acknowledge the formidable power of feminine psychological strategies, not to condemn, but to bring these dynamics into the light of conscious awareness. Jung's great insight was that only by facing our shadows, both masculine and feminine, can we hope to achieve psychological wholeness. The dark feminine is not some monstrous aberration. It is the natural counterpart to masculine aggression, the yin to yang, the necessary balance to male energy. Listen, When properly understood and respected, this feminine power becomes not something to fear, but a force that can elevate relationships to unprecedented levels of depth and authenticity. In the mirror of the dark feminine, men see reflected back not just the truth about women, but the unvarnished truth about themselves, their vulnerabilities, their unconscious patterns, their deepest needs and fears. Listen, this is why these psychological truths cannot be ignored. Because the man who understands the dark psychology of women is ultimately the man who understands himself. And in that understanding lies the path to genuine power, authentic relationships, and psychological liberation.